here's a situation then. A woman finds herself pregnant. It was not something that she had planned on. Whether, and I don't even know if how often rape even plays into this equation or not.
I've worked with several clients where rape has played into it. Sometimes it's state rape, sometimes it's a known rape situation, which could be very traumatic for the girl. Oh yeah, it's just, I can't even go there. I can't imagine it. But so then a woman finds herself in a situation, she knows now that she's pregnant, and I was really pleased to find a number of questions that people ask on the website, and so I wanted to kind of go through some of these. And so let's say I'm a female and I've found out that I'm pregnant. I have no clue what I'm going to do. And so one question that people come to you with is, am I ready to be a parent? Is that something that you ask women? And what are some of the responses you get? And what is your advice when somebody says, when you ask somebody, are you ready to be a parent? A lot of times what we do is we take a look at their life situation and we say, okay, who are you currently living with? Are you able to continue to live in that environment if you bring a child into that home? Let's say you're living with mom and dad. Are they set up to be able to help you and provide for you financially and provide a place for you to bring that child? So we look at the living situation, we look at the home, we look at their finances, we look at their schooling. We look at the involvement of the birth father. Many of these women who make an adoption plan will make that plan because they want their child to have two parents. And if the father is not involved, that often will play a role into the decision that they ultimately come to.
Right, because here's another question is, how will I support myself and my child?
And that's something we have to seriously look at. Sometimes even if they're in a dating relationship with the birth father, they have to look at the fact that they don't know if this is a long-term relationship. So they may have his support now, but will he still be there when the child is 5, 6, 7 years old? And so it's something they have to take a look at and realize, I may be raising this child on my own.
And it's just amazing. I can't fathom how people can do that. Another question is how will being a parent affect my time? And I think obviously anybody that is going to step into being a parent is going to have to realize that your life is going to change completely. What do you tell women about how their life will change if they decide to parent their child?
What I like to do is get them to start thinking about how their life will change, and I get them to start processing that. I think it's important for them to take a look at it rather than for me to tell them this is how it's going to look different.
Right.
And so they begin to look at, okay, this is what I was doing before I was pregnant, this is what it's going to look like when I have a 2 or a 3-year-old. And we begin to compare their life, and not only theirs, but their child's life. What will your child's life look like if you choose to parent? What will your child's life look like if you choose adoption?
Right.
And one of the things I try to share with the gals is I think it's important that they understand my only agenda is I want a plan for every child. I want this child to come into the world knowing that there is a really good plan in place, whether that's parenting or whether it's adoption. And so we are looking for that to happen. If they choose parenting and they're set and they're ready to parent, I will rejoice with them, I'll celebrate with them, and we'll help them get on their feet to make that happen. If they choose adoption, we're going to help them walk down that path, and we're going to celebrate that with them and help them choose the family and walk that journey with them. What
I think is neat about this is that there is a scripture in the Bible, and it says that God places the lonely in families. And I think what I love knowing is that God's plan is for children to be raised in a family, and I know in fact my wife is somebody that was faced with an unplanned pregnancy, and her desire was that her son would have a family unit that he would grow up in. And isn't that part of what drives this ministry? It is, and I find that is, for the clients that I've worked with, that's their #1 reason for choosing adoption, is they want their child to have a good, solid 2-parent home. And if it's something they can't provide for that child, that's oftentimes the #1 reason for why they choose adoption. Now, I know as a guy, and a lot of times, well, it just seems that the father of the child seems to want to avoid responsibility. And I don't know if that's always the case, but even being married, when I found out we were pregnant, it's like, oh no. But no, we praised God and we celebrated. But do you see a much different reaction, and do you counsel the fathers as well?
I definitely do. We try to involve the birth father as early in the process as we can. If he has an interest in being involved, we involve him on all the counseling right along with her if they're in a relationship. If they're not in a dating relationship, sometimes I'll meet with him separately from her, and we'll continue to provide the counsel to him as well. It's important for any young man that wants to be involved that we involve him and that we help him feel like he's a part of that plan for that baby.
You know what strikes me is, are there, I'm sure this is complex, but what about in a situation where maybe the mother doesn't feel up to the parenting task, but the father wants to embrace that 100%? They're not married. Does someone have more rights to the child, or can you walk us through that?
That's an interesting question. It really does vary from one case to another. If he is a putative father rather than a legal father would be if they were married.
Okay.
Then their rights would be equal. If he's a putative father, then the rights are a little different in terms of how that plays out, and it really is an individual case. Typically, if we have a father that is really interested and wants to raise that child, we're going to work with him and we're going to work with her so that we can all arrive at a decision that everyone feels good about. And if he is a real responsible young man and he's a person that wants to raise that child and she feels good about that, then we'll help her in that process. We're willing to work with whichever parent is the more capable parent.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, let's take a break, and we will be right back with you on Testify West Michigan.